Question 18. We're meant to enlarge the shape P by a scale factor of -1/2 with center of enlargement at point 0, 0, and we need to label the image Q. In order to do this, we need to find the vertex of each triangle. We're going to write this in form of a vector, which is x and y. So the x first, so start for each point. There are 3 points here. X first will be, so this point here, so the points we're looking for, the vertex. So this first point will be, vertex will be 2, 3. The next one is, the vertex is 4, 3. And this point here, the vertex is 2, 7. Now we're going to use those vertices and then to find a new point. So the first thing we do is we take away the center of enlargement. In this case, it's 0, 0. So we do 2, 7 minus 0, 0. And that'll be equal to 2, 7 still. And then we times it by -1/2, the scale factor. And that becomes 2 over 2 minus, so that'll be -1 and -7 over 2. Which is, and then we're supposed to add the center of enlargement, but because it's 0, 0, it has no effect. So it will be -1 minus 3.5. Now we do the same to another point, which is 2 and 3. Take away 0, 0. Still be the same. So 2 and 3, times it by the scale factor, minus times -1/2, and we get -1 minus 3 over 2, and that will become -1 minus 1.5. And the final point is 4, 3, take away the center and you get the same value, 4, 3, times it by the scale factor, -1/2, and then you get -2 minus 3 over 2, and that gives you -2 minus 1.5. So those are the new points that we need for our new triangle Q. The first point is -1 minus 3.5. So this is -1 to the left and -3.5 will be here. The second point is -1 minus 1.5. So -1, x is -1, y is -1.5, which is there. And the third point is -2 minus 1.5. Then we draw our triangle. Let's just see. And let me just do that properly. And draw that one. And then draw this one here. So that's our new triangle, and we can call that Q. Right, question 19. We got a rectangle ABC. AE and B are points on the straight line L with equation x plus 2y equals 12. So L has an equation x plus 2y equals to 12. AE equals EB. A and D are points on the straight line M. Find the equation for M. Well, if you write L again, equation of L, I'm making y the subject. So 2y equals minus x plus 12. Divide both sides by 2. Y equals minus a half x plus 6. So now we need to find the gradient of M, line M. The gradient of line L is, let's just call it MT or ML. Let's call it ML. The gradient of line M is minus a half. But the gradient of line M, so M, capital M, will be minus 1 over ML, which is minus 1 over minus a half. And that will give us 2. So that's the gradient of M. So therefore the equation of line M will be y equals 2x plus c. We don't know what c will be. So we need to find c to get the final answer. Right, in order to do that, we need to do some simple calculations. We need to find because AE is equal to EB, so we need to find the coordinates at B, E, and A. The coordinate of line L at B is when y equal to 0. When y is 0 for line L, x. So y equals to 0. Therefore, we have 0 equals minus a half x plus 6. So if I take minus a half x to the other side, I get a half x equals 6, and therefore x equals 12. So this point is 12, 0. So that's the coordinate there. Also, I want to find the coordinate at E. And the coordinate at E is when x is 0. When x is 0, y is 6. So that would be 0, 6. How did I get that? But y is minus 1 over 2x plus 6. When x is 0, so I get y equals minus 1 over 2 times 0 plus 6, and that will give me 6. Now, I need to find the distance EB. The distance EB is equal to distance EA. So to find the distance EB, I need to basically write EB squared equals, right, so that would be x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And that's point number 2. That's my point number 2. That's my point number 1. So what I'm going to do is write 12 minus 0, so that would be 12 squared, right, plus 0 minus 6 squared. So that would be 144 plus 36. That's 144 plus 436. So therefore EB squared is that, which implies that EB equals square root of 180. And square root of 180 is EB. Right. Now that we got that, so we can now equate EB to AE. So let's do that. Now, AE, this is for line M now. So we're going to do M now. So AE squared is equal to, now the points for AE, these points we don't know, so it's X and Y. We don't know that point. So AE squared would be zero minus X squared plus 6 minus Y squared. Or actually it might be better to write, so it might be simpler to write X minus 0 squared plus Y minus 6 squared. So now, and that will be, we know that value is, we know AE is actually 180. So AE squared is 180. So we have X squared plus Y squared minus actually we know what Y is. Y is I have X squared plus 6. So let's put that in there. Let's put that in. So Y, we know what Y is. This is Y. That's Y. So we're going to put that back in here. So I'm going to write minus a half X squared plus 6 minus 6 squared. So that will become, let's see what that becomes. So that will become X squared, right, plus, into bracket, minus a half X squared there's no X here, minus a half X all squared, because plus 6 minus 6 is 0. And then, and therefore, we're going to have X squared plus X squared over 4, because minus times minus cancel each other out. So 180 equals to that. Multiply top and bottom by 4. So in order to keep the same denominator, so I go 4x squared over 4 plus x squared over 4. That will give us 5x squared over 4. That's 180. And therefore, x squared, let's just use this side here. X squared, 5x squared over 4, we know is 180. And multiply both sides by 4, or cross multiply 4 to get 5x squared equals 180 times 4. X squared is 180 times 4 divided by 5. And 5 in 180, 5 in 18 is 3. So you got 3 there, that's 15. You're left with 3. 5 in 30 is 6. So that'll be 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is 144. So x squared equals 144. And therefore, x equals to plus or minus 12. And that implies the value of x will be minus 12. So therefore, x equals minus 12. And when x is minus 12, what is y? At that point where it meets L, when x is minus 12, what is y? We know the equation of y, because at that point they both meet together, L and m. So you're going to get y equals minus a half times minus 12 plus 6. So I'm using y equals minus a half x plus 6. So at that point, it will give us minus times minus plus divided by 2 is 6. That will be 6 plus 6, and therefore y equals 12. So now this coordinate x and y are minus 12 and 12. That's what we've just done. Now we need to find the equation of m. Now we need to find the equation of m. We know we can find c now because we know that for m, y equals to 2x plus c. And at this point, x is minus 12, y is 12. So c is equal to y minus 2x, which implies that y, we know y is 12. So that will be, which implies that 12 equals, sorry, let me just take it back. And that implies that c equals 12 minus 2 times minus 12. And that will give c to be 12 plus 24, which is 36. So now the equation for m is y equals 2x plus 36. Right, question 20. From this table given to us, we need to find A and B. The best way to find A and B might be to plot a graph and then find the gradient and intercept on the y-axis. If we plot the graph like that, we are going to plot y against cos x degrees. If we plot y against cos x degrees, that is similar to an equation that we know as y equals m capital X plus c, where your gradient, the intercept, will be b. So that will be b, the intercept, and your gradient between 2 points will be m equals a. So your gradient will be a. But that meant we have to plot this graph, so we need a graph paper. Since we haven't got graph paper, what we need to do is solve this equation simultaneously. I'm going to pick 2 easy points there and those coordinates. And I'm going to solve this simultaneously. Right, let's start. So when y is 3, x is 0. So from the equation given, y equals a cos x degree plus b. So when y is 3 and x is 0, so I get 3 equals a cos 0 degrees plus b. Now cos 0 degree is 1. Therefore 3 equals a plus b. That's first equation. The second equation is when I pick I'll pick the x equals to 60 and y is 2. Cos 60 degrees equals a half. How do I know that? Well, isosceles triangle. This is root 3, this is 1, and that's root, and that's 2, sorry, that's 2. So that's 60, and that's 30. So cos of 60 is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is a half. Now, and therefore, I'm going to have the second equation to be y is 2 equals a times a half plus b. And the second equation is 2 equals a over 2 plus b, equation 2. So what I need to do is basically subtract equation 2 from equation 1. So that'll be, let's come again and try 2 equals a over 2 plus b. Take away, underline, 3 minus 2 is 1 equals a minus a half a is a over 2, b minus b is 0, which implies that a equals 2. I just multiply 2 by both sides. If a is 2, b from equation 1 will be, so if I substitute a equals to 2 into equation 1, so I get 3 equals 2 plus b, and therefore b equals 1. So if I go back to my equation and I put those values in, so I know y equals a cos s degree plus b. Therefore y equals a is 2, so 2 cos x degree plus 1. So answering the question, for x equals 45, what is y? So I get y equals 2 cos 45 degree plus 1. But I do know cos 45 is, from a square, half a square, and this is 1, and that's root 2. That's 45. So cos 45 equals 1 over root 2. And if you rationalize the denominator, you get that to be equal to root 2 over 2. So that is multiply both denominator and numerator by root 2. So, therefore, y equals, well, just to do rationalization, just in case, 1 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2, that will give us root 2 times 2, because root 2 times root 2 is 2. So now, we get 2 root 2 over 2 plus 1. 2 cancel 2, and I get y to be equal to root 2 plus 1 when x is 45. Question 21. We need to rationalize the denominator in this case. So I've got 6 minus root 8 over root 2 minus 1. Rationalizing the denominator means multiply top and bottom by the conjugate of the denominator, which is root 2 plus 1 over root 2 plus 1. And that will give us 6 times root 2 will be 6 root 2. 6 times 1 will be plus 6 minus root 2 times 8. So minus root 2 times 8 minus root 8 times root 2 will be minus root 16. That's root 8 times root 2, which is root 16. And root 16 is 4, so that's minus 4, but we'll do that later. Minus root 8 times 1, so minus root 8 times 1 will be minus root 8 divided by root 2 times root 2, that will be 2. Root 2 times 1, that will be plus root 2 minus 1 times root 2 is minus root 2 minus 1 times 1 is minus 1. So we're going to get, well, root 8 is root 4 times root 2, which is 2 root 2. And root 16 is 4, so I'm going to get 6 root 2 plus 6 minus 4 minus 2 root 2 over 2 minus 1. So I'm getting 4 root 2 plus 2 over 1, which is, the answer for this one is 2 plus 4 root 2. So that's the answer for rationalizing the denominator. So that will be 2 plus 4 root 2, where A equals 2 and B equals 4. Question 22. This is a scale factor problem. So the best thing is to basically draw out the triangles. So I'm going to draw the small one. So that'll be small triangle. There we go. And the big triangle. Right. And this one is 8. This is 12. And this is AE. And that's B. This is A, D, and that's C. I need to know the value here. So that's 15. The scale factor here, scale factor is linear scale factor, by the way. Linear scale factor is 15 over 12, which is 3. So that would be 5 over, because how many 3 goes here? 5. How many 3 goes here? 4. 5 over 4. So that's the scale factor. And with that scale factor, I can then use that to find the other sides that are missing. So I was told to find there are two possible values of x. So the first values of x is by transforming the AB and AC with a scale factor of 5/4. So here I need to multiply by 5/4 to get AC. So, and AC is x plus 8. So AC is 8 times 5/4, which is basically 10, because how many 4 goes here? 1. How many 4 goes here? 2. 5 times 2 is 10 centimeters. So that means that x is 2, because x, 8 plus x equals 10, therefore x equals 2 centimeters. So that's one value. And the other value is to use a ratio problem by taking the length here and comparing it to the whole length there. So this is what we're going to do now. So I'm going to compare 15 over 8 will be compared to 8 plus x over 12. So I'm then going to compare the whole thing here with the 12. So I'm doing a ratio problem there. So in that case, I get, so I'm going to cross multiply. The best way to solve this problem is cross multiply. So so I'm going to get, and that implies that 15 times 12 over 8 equals 8 plus x. But how many 4 goes here? 3. How many 4 goes here? 2. How many 2 goes in 15? 1. 7.5. So I get 7.5 times 3. So 3 times 15, 5, carry 1. 3 times 1, 3 times 1, 3 times 7, 21, plus 1, 22.5. So it's 22.5. So x, so therefore we get 22.5 equals 8x, 8 plus x. Therefore, x would be 22.5 minus 8. And that would be equals 14.5. So that's 14.5. So therefore, the answer would be 14.5 for x centimeters. So the two values are x equals 2 centimeters or x equals 14.5 centimeters. Question 23, the last one. So I'm going to find the area of this triangle, and they said the area of the rectangle is bigger than the area of the triangle, and we need to find the sets of possible value that makes this happen. So the area of the rectangle is 3x minus 2, that's the length times height, which is x minus 1. That's the area of the rectangle. The area of the triangle is a half base times height, so a half 2x times x, and that gives it a half times 2 is 1, or you could say 2 over 2x squared, and that is x squared. And the question, so we need to expand this one. So I'm going to expand this. So by 3x times x will be 3x squared. 3x times minus 1 will be minus 3x minus 2x times x. That will be minus 2x minus 2 times minus 1 will be plus 2. So if we simplify this, what we get 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. And the question then is, the area of the rectangle is bigger than the area of the triangle. So I have 3x squared minus 5x plus 2 is greater than x squared, which meant that I need to rewrite this. So subtract x squared from both sides, so I get 2x squared minus 5x plus 2 is greater than 0. So the best is to solve this and then probably sketch it and then find out the value where it's greater than 0. Well, to solve this, all we need to do is factorize. So we find AC. AC is A equals 2, B is minus 5, and C equals 2. So AC is 2 times 2, that's 4. Two numbers that I can multiply together, I get 4, and add together, I get minus 5. So I'm thinking minus 4 minus 1. Stick x there, replace minus 5 by minus 5x by minus x minus 4, because minus 5x is equal minus x minus 4x. So I'm going to replace minus 5x by minus x minus 4x. And therefore, in solving this equation, it will be 2x squared minus x minus 4x plus 2, and that's greater than 0. So I need to factorize this. 2x minus 1, so I took an x out between those two, and then minus is there. Because there's a minus there, I mean to be careful with a plus over here. So I'm taking 2 out, so I'm going to have 2x minus 1 as well, and that's greater than 0. And therefore, I have, what do I have now? I have that's common, and that's common. So I got 2x minus 1 is common factor, and I'm left with minus 2 and x. So x minus 2, and that's greater than 0. So really, to be honest, I know that x will be equal to 2, and x will be equal to 1 over 2, because I have to set the two factors to 0. So that will be equal to 0, and that will be equal to 0. And that's why x equals to 2 by adding 2 to both sides, and x equals to a half by adding 1 to both sides and divide both sides by 2. So if I sketch this curve quickly, just a simple sketch. This is a half here, and that's 2 there. And the equation is passing through plus 2 at y-intercept. So it's going to be 2 there. That's a half. That's 2. So my curve will be more like that. So the question is, that's y. That's x minus y. So the question is, I need where it's greater than 0. So this point here, all the way, so I draw a circle and I go all that way. That's greater than 0. Draw a circle and I go all that way. That's greater than 0. So that means it's greater than 0 at x is less than a half and x is greater than 2. But for an area, I couldn't have less than a half. So, because there's no area of a negative value. So therefore, the answer will be x greater than 2.